So get this, podcast listeners. Chuck Todd fails at Senator Johnson hit job. That's right. So NBC's Chuck Todd, he's all about basically doing hit jobs against Republicans. That's NBC, and that is Chuck Todd. Everybody knows it. So Chuck Todd is interviewing Senator Johnson from Wisconsin, and he asks Senator Johnson a series of questions. We have the questions and the responses from Senator Johnson, and we really want you to listen to this because this really tells you not just about Chuck Todd and NBC and how crooked they are, but in addition to that, it just tells you what the media thinks about freedom of speech, the Republican Party, and transparency in elections. This is important stuff, okay? So here's Chuck Todd. He says, there are so many cases that have been filed about, election fraud and so forth, but there haven't been any successes. In other words, there's no fraud. So we have that clip, and here it is.
There have been 57 cases filed by the president or his allies. Not a single court has found a single instance of fraud or any of this evidence seen as legitimate. So what has changed to suddenly put you on the side of questioning the results of this election, sir?
So that's the question. Fair question. Okay, that's fine. That particular question is fair. Here's Senator Johnson's response. We have that clip, and here it is.
To answer your question, I would ask that all your listeners, ask our critics to actually read the letter. One of the points we make is that we are not acting to thwart the democratic process. We're acting to protect it. The fact of the matter is that we have an unsustainable state of affairs in this country where we have tens of millions of people that do not view this election result as legitimate. We've just come off of 4 years where the other side refused to acknowledge the legitimacy of President Trump. And here we are again. And what we're saying is we need transparency.
And that's Senator Johnson responding to Chuck Todd's question of, hey, there haven't been really any successes in going to court with these election fraud cases. So therefore, Senator Johnson, why are you objecting in the Senate to the election of Joe Biden? Why are you doing that? And okay, so the first question is certainly fair enough, but it doesn't really give the full breadth of what has happened, which is the courts haven't really accepted the cases, right? They've dismissed them without actually hearing any evidence whatsoever. And because, as we've said ad nauseum on this program, you had hundreds of lawsuits prior to the election whereby Democrat operatives changed election rules and laws in the middle of the election while people were literally voting or right prior to people voting, which of course is wrong. But naturally, NBC's Chuck Todd doesn't want to talk about that. No. So here's Chuck Todd saying, you're just full of allegations. Just all you have are allegations, Senator Johnson, nothing else. We have that question and comment first, and then we're going to give you Senator Johnson's response. Here's the clip.
Because what you're alleging is essentially you and your colleagues have created this controversy. So right now we are locked into a destructive, vicious circle in some ways, as you kind of outlined, which is you made an allegation that there was widespread fraud. You have failed to offer specific evidence of that widespread fraud, but you're demanding an investigation on the grounds that there are allegations of widespread fraud. So essentially, you're the arsonist here. President Trump is the arsonist here. You've started this fire, and now you're saying, whoa, look at this. Oh, my God. All these people believe what we told them because you didn't have the guts to tell the truth that this election was fair.
Isn't that incredible? So that, ladies and gentlemen, is NBC's Chuck Todd having absolutely no interest in getting to the bottom of why the American people, so many millions of the American people, are distrustful, I should say, of this election. And the fact that they believe there was massive amounts of fraud that occurred at many different levels. And so is Chuck Todd interested in talking about any of those specific cases? No, instead he just says to Senator Johnson, you're an arsonist. In other words, he's trying to burn the whole house down. Can you imagine? This is the network that is actually saying that after 4 years of Donald Trump? Well, we have Senator Johnson's response. Pretty awesome, and here it is.
Chuck, this fire was started back in January of 2017. People like Mark Zaid, in his tweet, the coup has started, first of many steps, rebellion and impeachment to follow ultimately. This was started when the mainstream media dropped any pretense of being unbiased and actually chose sides during this election. This fire was started when you completely ignored, for example, our investigation of Hunter Biden. No evidence of wrongdoing there, and now we find out after the election, no, there is a fair amount of evidence to the point that we have a real FBI investigation.
Senator,
so
all right, I've had enough of hearing this.
Listen, I've had enough of this too. It's
no,
the
Senator,
bias in the media
it is.
that has created a situation
years.
where Republicans and conservatives do not trust the mainstream media, and that is what has destroyed the credibility of the media and our institutions, and really
the destruction
shaken confidence
of
in
the
this election result. So I can start this.
You're hearing Chuck Todd is just like, I've had enough, Senator. I don't want to hear this. So, and you have, what is he that he doesn't want to hear, Chuck Todd? He doesn't want to hear Senator Johnson talking about the fact that, hey, look, you guys at NBC wouldn't even report anything about the Hunter Biden story prior to the election. In fact, you still aren't reporting anything about the Hunter Biden story. And why haven't you done that? And I mean, you're just crooked, right? And instead of Senator Johnson attacking NBC directly, he's just talking about mainstream media. And I think that's, very gentlemanly, right? Because I'm not really sure I'd be able to be that gentlemanly. I think I'd have to just go after right after the neck of Chuck Todd and NBC about how crooked they are and have been, not just with the Vice President Biden's son, not just with his son, but also with the entire way they have conducted themselves through the 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency and through the actual election, and currently where they're saying, we don't really want to hear about any kind of allegations. Oh, by the way, but you're not telling us any allegations. But we don't want to hear about the allegations. In fact, I don't want to hear any of that anymore. I mean, can you imagine? This is what NBC, this is one of their best anchors at NBC, allegedly, Chuck Todd. So here's Chuck Todd offended about election transparency. Think about this. Election transparency, the most single important thing in being able to preserve and restore our republic. And Chuck Todd is offended by it. And we have that clip.
You've used your committee to sort of create the illusion of voter fraud, as you just described earlier, because there are, quote, allegations. I'm just trying to understand here, what are you doing it for? You're not trying to overturn the election, you just said. Are you simply trying to curry favor with constituents of the president's? Is that what this is all about? Is this a cynical political ploy?
I'm trying to be transparent. One of the things we found out in our hearing is, the basic allegations kind of fall into three categories. I would say the first is the either violation of or lax enforcement of election law. There is voter fraud. There always is. We had one witness talk about 42,000 people voting twice in Nevada. The other issue
just
really
because
is
you have somebody say it didn't make it true.
It's easy.
Senator, none of these allegations. Stop. You don't get to make these allegations that haven't been proven true.
Can you imagine? This is a major TV anchor, news anchor, saying, "Stop. You can't talk. I mean, we don't want you to tell us more about allegations, if you will, about fraud, about cheating, about massive cheating, about collusion with the Biden campaign and with Democrat operatives in literally stealing the election, potentially in certain states." I mean, and I use that word potentially because of the fact that you do have to provide definitive proof. Okay, well, to be fair here, Ron Johnson, senator from Wisconsin, was trying to do just that. He was trying to at least give a single example, given the time constraint on Chuck Todd's program, because obviously, you could talk about it for hours, I'm sure. But given the time constraint of maybe just a few minute interview, he was trying to start giving some of that information. What does Chuck Todd do? He says, no, stop. I don't want to hear it. I don't want our viewers to hear what you have to say either. Incredible, right? And this is where we are. This is where we are in American politics in 2021, at the beginning of 2021. We have millions upon millions of Americans who don't have trust in our system. We have Ron Johnson, who's a true patriot, who's trying to restore transparency and restore faith in our voting system. And then you have tools like NBC's Chuck Todd, who isn't the least bit interested in getting to the truth. And instead, he says, no, I don't want to hear any more of this. So that is Chuck Todd fails at Senator Johnson hit job.